Coffeehouse Confessions. An Alphabet Sweetheart's Romance. Written by Susanne Ash. Chapter 1. Maggie. There's something magical about novel sips in the late afternoon, when golden sunlight streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows and turns our dark wood shelves into something from a fairy tale. The scent of fresh coffee mingles with the leather and paper notes from thousands of books, creating what I like to think of as the perfect reader's potpourri. Today, that familiar comfort is exactly what I need. I tuck a fresh pen behind my ear and survey my domain. Well, technically it's Andrew's domain. My brother owns Novel Sips, but I've worked here long enough that I consider myself the unofficial guardian of this hybrid paradise of caffeine and literature. The cafe side bustles with its usual Wednesday crowd. Mrs. O'Connor occupies her favorite table by the window, red pen poised over a stack of essays. The regular group of college students has claimed the long farmhouse table, their laptops forming a silver archipelago among coffee cups and scattered notebooks. And then there's him. Ethan Ward. My brother's former college roommate turned Juniper Falls' newest resident and Novel Sips' most predictable customer. Same corner table every day, same black coffee, same weathered leather notebook that looks like it's survived more adventures than its owner. I've known of Ethan for years through Andrew's stories, but the man himself has been something of a mystery since he arrived in town 3 months ago. Quiet. Reserved. The kind of person who seems to take up less space than he should, despite being tall enough that he has to duck slightly under our lower hanging pendant lights. "Order up, Mags," Andrew calls from behind the counter, pushing his wire-rimmed glasses up his nose with that familiar worried expression. "Table 4 needs their chai latte, and that blueberry scone needs to go to Mrs. Peterson, by the mystery section." I know. I grab the plates and cups, with practiced ease. I haven't forgotten how to do my job in the last 10 minutes. Andrew's sigh follows me across the hardwood floors. "Just making sure you're focused." He's been extra hovery lately, ever since I moved back home after my less than triumphant attempt at making it in the city. Sometimes I think he forgets I'm 25, not 15. Today's different though. Instead of Ethan's usual solitary writing session, he's here for the bi-weekly writers group. I watch him settle into one of the mismatched armchairs we've arranged in a circle near our River Rock fireplace. His shoulders are tense, notebook clutched like a shield. "Welcome everyone," Gloria begins, her silver hair catching the light. She's been running this group since Andrew opened the shop. We have a new member joining us today. I slow my steps as I clear nearby tables, definitely not eavesdropping. Ethan clears his throat. "Hi, I'm Ethan Ward." His voice is rich and deep, with a quiet confidence that makes me pause mid-wipe. "I'm working on a science fiction novel about time travel and second chances." He pauses, fingers drumming against that well-worn notebook. After years of writing other people's stories as a journalist, I figured it was time to write my own. Something in the way he says it, like he's admitting to a secret dream, resonates deep in my chest. I know that feeling intimately. It's the same one that brought me back to Juniper Falls after my own creative dreams crumbled into student loan debt and half-finished projects. "Maggie." Andrew's voice snaps me back to reality. "The espresso machine won't clean itself." I jump, nearly knocking over the stack of cups I'd been slowly collecting. When I glance back at the group, Ethan's looking my way, the hint of a smile touching his lips. His eyes are kind, warmer than I expected given his usually serious expression. I quickly walk back and turn my attention to the espresso machine, my cheeks burning. Through the steam and familiar whir of grinding beans, I hear the group launching into their discussion. Ethan's voice rises and falls with the others, and I find myself straining to catch his words while pretending very hard that I'm not. "Great. Real smooth, Maggie. Getting flustered over your brother's best friend is definitely not part of the rebuild your life plan. Even if he does have incredibly nice hands wrapped around that notebook of his." The writers' group disperses like cherry blossoms, drifting toward the door or lingering among the bookshelves. Gloria picks up the latest Louise Penny mystery, while Ted, our resident poet, orders his usual Americano for the road, But Ethan stays put, shoulders hunched as he flips through his notebook, making small marks with a silver fountain pen. I shouldn't find his furrowed brow attractive. I definitely shouldn't notice how his dark hair falls forward when he concentrates, or the way his long fingers trace the margins of his pages. But here I am, wiping the same spot on the counter for the third time while stealing glances his way. Before I can talk myself out of it, I'm making him a fresh cup of coffee. Black, like always. But this time, instead of calling his name, I carry it over myself. Look serious, I say, setting the cup down. Time travel giving you trouble? He startles slightly, as if he'd forgotten there was a world beyond his notebook. Oh. Thank you. His eyes meet mine briefly, before dropping back to his writing. Just processing feedback. Good feedback or back to the drawing board feedback? A ghost of a smile touches his lips. Is there a middle ground? Your premise is interesting, but your protagonist needs more personality feedback? Ah. I tap the pen behind my ear. The dreaded character notes. Want to know a secret? I lean in conspiratorially. Most of our regulars are character people. They'd happily read 600 pages about someone grocery shopping if they loved the protagonist enough. That gets me a real smile, small but genuine. I'll keep that in mind. He hesitates, then adds, though I'm not sure my grocery shopping scenes would be particularly riveting. Even with time travel? Come on, there's got to be some potential there. Milk going bad before you bought it, eggs unscrambling themselves. Are you always this? He pauses, searching for the right word. Chatty? Annoying? Overly invested in fictional dairy products? I was going to say imaginative. His tone is careful, like someone testing ice to see if it'll hold. Heat creeps up my neck. Occupational hazard. Spend enough time around books and coffee, and your brain starts making up stories about everything. I gesture to Mrs. O'Connor, still grading papers. See her? I've decided she's secretly working on a thriller about a teacher who solves crimes using clues hidden in her students' essays. This time his laugh is unexpected and real, a warm sound that makes something flutter in my chest. Does Andrew know you're creating backstories for all his customers? Andrew's too busy alphabetizing the business section to care. I shrug. Besides, what's the point of working in a bookstore if you can't imagine stories everywhere? Ethan studies me for a moment, and I fight the urge to fidget under his gaze. I used to do that, he says finally. Make up stories about people. Before journalism beat it out of me. There's something heavy in those words, something that makes me want to pull up a chair and ask questions until I understand every layer of what he means. But Andrew's voice cuts through the moment. Maggie. Phone. Coming. I straighten up, suddenly aware I've been standing at Ethan's table far too long. Enjoy your coffee. And hey, I tap his notebook lightly, don't let journalism or criticism beat anything out of you. Some of us like a little imagination with our time travel. As I head back to the counter, I feel his eyes on me. And I know, with the same certainty that tells me which customers need their coffee before they speak and which books belong face out on display, that I'm going to figure out the story behind Ethan Ward's careful smiles and hidden layers. Even if my brother might kill me for trying.
Chapter 2. Ethan. The morning crowd at Novel Sips has thinned to a gentle trickle when Hazel Elliott slides into the chair across from me, her signature paisley scarf trailing wisps of lavender. You're brooding again, dear. I close my fountain pen, carefully setting it beside my notebook. I'm writing. She sets her teacup down with practiced grace. That particular furrow between your brows suggests otherwise. Before I can defend myself, Andrew appears with Hazel's usual Earl Grey refresh. He pushes his glasses up and glances at my still blank page. Writer's block? Just thinking. I lean back, taking in the familiar comfort of the shop. The wall of windows letting in spring sunshine, the carefully curated shelves, the soft murmur of conversations wrapped in coffee steam. About why I came here. Ah. Hazel's knowing smile makes me wonder, not for the first time, if she can read minds. Having second thoughts about leaving the big city behind? No. The answer comes quickly, surprising even me with its certainty. The city was. I searched for the right words, the kind that used to come so easily when I was reporting other people's stories. Too loud. Too many voices drowning out my own. Andrew nods, pulling up a chair. The shop's quiet enough that he can take a break, though I notice he positions himself to keep an eye on the counter. That's why I opened Novel Sips. Needed my own space to build something real. Through the bookcases, I catch a glimpse of Maggie restocking the romance section, her dark curls escaping from a messy bun as she arranges covers with careful attention. She's humming something under her breath, swaying slightly as she works. Speaking of building something real, Hazel says, following my gaze with far too much interest, "How was the writers' group yesterday?" I drag my attention back to my coffee. It was helpful. Different from what I'm used to. Maggie mentioned you write science fiction, Andrew says, his tone careful. Time travel? Among other things. I trace the rim of my cup, remembering Maggie's joke about unscrambling eggs. It's about second chances, really. About what we'd do differently if we could go back, knowing what we know now. Sounds rather personal, Hazel observes. I shrug, uncomfortable with how close to the mark she is. Most writing is, I suppose. And how are you finding our little town? Hazel asks. Beyond the peace and quiet? It's. I glance up again, just as Maggie breaks into a full smile at whatever she's reading. The morning light catches her face, and something in my chest tightens. It's surprising. Andrew clears his throat, and I quickly look away. Well, we're glad to have you here, he says, standing. Even if some of us are a bit concerned about your career choices. Andrew, Hazel chides gently. What? I'm allowed to worry when my best friend quits a perfectly good job to write novels. The same way you worried when your sister moved back home to figure out her path? Hazel's voice is mild, but there's steel beneath the sweetness. Andrew sighs, running a hand through his hair. That's different. Is it? Hazel sips her tea, eyes twinkling. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is start over. Isn't that right, Ethan? I open my notebook again, trying to focus on the blank page rather than the way Maggie's laugh carries across the shop. Right. But as I uncap my pen, I wonder if starting over would be easier if it didn't mean navigating between my best friend's protectiveness and his sister's increasingly distracting presence. More coffee? Maggie's voice makes me jump. She's suddenly there, coffee pot in hand, wearing a t-shirt with a constellation of coffee stains that somehow looks charming rather than messy. Please. I hold out my cup, careful not to let our fingers brush. One black coffee for the serious sci-fi writer, she says with a wink. Try not to unscramble any eggs while I'm not looking. She's gone before I can respond, leaving behind the scent of coffee and something floral, and the distinct impression that staying focused in Juniper Falls might be harder than I planned. Hazel's knowing chuckle tells me I'm not hiding anything nearly as well as I think I am. I'm halfway through a paragraph about temporal paradoxes when Maggie appears with another coffee refill. She's switched to a different t-shirt, this one with a quote about books being magic, and she's talking about some theory involving parallel universes and coffee shops. So technically, there could be infinite versions of Novel Sips, right? Maybe in one of them, you're the barista and I'm writing the next great American novel. Her enthusiasm is infectious, and I find myself smiling despite my usual reservations. I think the universe is safer with you making the coffee. Oh? And why is that? Because, I start, but Andrew's voice cuts through our conversation. Ethan. A word? Something in his tone makes me close my notebook. Maggie rolls her eyes, muttering something under her breath as she heads back to the counter, but Andrew's expression doesn't soften. He leads me to the small office behind the register, closing the door with deliberate care. The space is pure Andrew. Everything is labeled, organized, scheduled. A wall calendar marked with color-coded events hangs beside spreadsheets tracking inventory and sales. "Look," he says, removing his glasses to clean them. "Never a good sign. You know you're my best friend. And I'm glad you're here, trying to figure things out." My stomach tightens. I've heard this tone before, usually right before someone explains why my choices are impractical. But I need you to keep your distance from Maggie. The words hit harder than they should. Andrew. She's just getting back on her feet after that mess in the city. The last thing she needs is to get involved with someone who's... He trails off, rubbing his glasses with increasing intensity. Someone who's what? My voice comes out sharper than intended. He sighs, replacing his glasses. Someone who's still figuring out their own life. Come on, Ethan. You left a solid career to write science fiction. Do you have any idea how hard it is to make it as a novelist? The odds of actually supporting yourself with fiction? I've done my research. The words taste like coffee gone cold. Have you? Because from where I'm standing, you're taking a massive gamble. And that's your choice. But Maggie is my baby sister. He glances through the office window to where she's laughing with a customer. She deserves stability. Security. Someone who knows what they want and how to get it. And you don't think I qualify. I think you're my friend, and I respect what you're trying to do. But I also think you're in the middle of blowing up your entire life to chase a dream. And Maggie, he shakes his head. She's already done that once. I won't watch her do it again. The worst part is, I can't entirely disagree with him. Every word hits a doubt I've been trying to ignore since I left my job. Since I moved here. Since I started noticing the way Maggie's presence makes the words flow easier. I swallow hard. Nothing's happened. Let's keep it that way. Andrew's tone softens slightly. Look, you're welcome here. Always. Just remember what I said. I nod stiffly, gathering my notebook and pen. The office suddenly feels too small, too warm. Too full of practicality and proof that some people know exactly what they're doing with their lives. I should go, I say. I've got some editing to do. Andrew doesn't try to stop me as I head for the door. Through the window, I see Maggie look up, a question in her eyes. I force myself to look away. Maybe it's time to find a new coffee shop. Or a new town. Somewhere I can write without worrying about disappointed friends or distracting baristas or all the ways I might not measure up to someone else's standards.
Chapter 3. Maggie. The great thing about working in a bookstore, aside from the endless supply of coffee and the fact that browsing through books is considered work, is that you can learn a lot about someone by what they read. Take Mrs. O'Connor, who alternates between cozy mysteries and books about garden design. Or Ted from the writers group, who has strong opinions about poetry collections but secretly buys romance novels on his Kindle because he thinks we don't notice him reading them on break. And then there's Ethan Ward, who's been staring at the same page in his notebook for 20 minutes while I pretend not to notice. The morning rush is over, and the shop has settled into its comfortable midday lull. Andrew's at the bank, which means I can finally satisfy my curiosity without his hovering presence. I grab 2 muffins from the display case and make my way to Ethan's corner. Writer's block or temporal paradox? I set a blueberry muffin beside his cold coffee. You've been frowning at that page so hard I'm worried it might burst into flames. He looks up, startled, then eyes the muffin with suspicion. I didn't order. Consider it brain fuel. Besides, you look like you could use a break from. I tilt my head, trying to read his elegant fountain pen script upside down. Is that a diagram of a wormhole? It's a plot structure. The tips of his ears turn pink. For mapping character arcs through different timelines. Sounds complicated. I slide into the chair across from him, taking a bite of my own muffin. When he raises an eyebrow, I shrug. It's my break. And you look like you could use someone to bounce ideas off of. I usually work alone. How's that working out for you? I gesture to his mostly blank page. A reluctant smile tugs at his lips. Point taken. So, tell me about your book. And please, use small words. The most complicated thing I've read lately was a romance novel where the main character had to choose between a vampire and a werewolf. Ah. He sets down his pen. Not a sci-fi fan? I prefer my fiction firmly grounded in reality. I pause. You know, reality plus incredibly attractive supernatural creatures and the occasional billionaire rancher. That gets me a real laugh, the kind that transforms his whole face. And that's more realistic than time travel? At least my billionaire cowboys follow consistent internal logic. Time travel just makes my head hurt. All those grandfather paradoxes and butterfly effects. You seem to know a lot about it for someone who doesn't read sci-fi. There's a glint in his eye that wasn't there before. I may have done some research. Purely to understand what you're working on, of course. Of course. He takes a bite of muffin, considering me. And what's your professional romance reader opinion? That your time travel story probably needs a love interest. The words slip out before I can stop them. What makes you think it doesn't have one? Does it? He taps his pen against the notebook. There might be something developing between the protagonist and someone he meets in the past. Ooh, forbidden love across time. Very nice. I lean forward. But let me guess, he's worried that changing anything might erase their entire relationship from existence? Actually. He flips back a few pages, and I catch glimpses of his careful handwriting. She's in the present. He's trying to fix a mistake in the past, but every time he comes back, something about her is different. Small things at first, then bigger ones. Until he has to choose between correcting his past mistakes and preserving the present where he met her. Oh. Something in my chest flutters. That's actually really romantic. You sound surprised. Well, you're usually so serious. All business journalist turned sci-fi novelist. I didn't expect. Romance? Heart. Our eyes meet, and suddenly the air feels different. Charged. You've got more heart than you let on, Ethan Ward. He looks down at his notebook, but not before I catch the flush creeping up his neck. Maybe you've just gotten better at reading between the lines. It's a gift. Speaking of reading, I stand up, struck by an idea. Wait here. I weave through the shelves, scanning titles until I find exactly what I'm looking for. When I return, I place 2 books on his table. What's this? Research materials. This one, I tap the first book, is classic sci-fi romance. Time travel, love story, the whole package. And this one is my favorite romantic comedy. You know, for reference. Since you're writing a love story disguised as science fiction. I never said it was. Everything's a love story if you look hard enough. I gather our empty muffin wrappers. Even stories about grumpy writers who drink too much black coffee. His expression softens into something I can't quite read. Is that what you think my story is about? I meet his gaze, letting myself linger there. I think you're still figuring out what your story is about. But I'm looking forward to finding out. I head back to the counter before he can respond, my heart doing a complicated little dance in my chest. When I glance back, he's opened one of the books, his lips curved in a small smile as he reads. Andrew would say I'm playing with fire. But as I watch Ethan's careful hands turn pages, his shoulders gradually relaxing as he gets drawn into the story, I find myself thinking that some fires are worth the risk of getting burned. Besides, what's a good romance without a little heat? It's been 3 days since I gave Ethan those books, and I've noticed some changes. They are subtle, but they are there. He started taking breaks from writing to actually read. He finishes his coffee instead of letting it go cold while he stares at his notebook. And sometimes, when he thinks I'm not looking, he smiles at whatever he's reading. I'm restocking the mystery section when he appears between the shelves, holding a well-worn paperback. Your turn, he says, extending the book. I take it, examining the cover. The Time Traveler's Wife? My lips twitch. I hate to break it to you, but this isn't exactly hardcore sci-fi. It's a gateway book. His eyes crinkle at the corners. Besides, I finished your romantic comedy. It's only fair. You actually read it? I clutch the book to my chest in mock shock. The serious writer deigned to read about fake dating and grand gestures? I did. He leans against the bookshelf, and I try not to notice how good he looks in that soft gray sweater. And I have thoughts. Do tell. The premise is completely unrealistic, says the man writing about time travel. But, he continues, giving me a look that makes my stomach flip, the emotional core is surprisingly complex. The way they both have to overcome their fears of vulnerability, their preconceptions about each other. He shrugs. It's not unlike what I'm trying to do with my novel. Except with more wormholes and without kissing scenes? Who says there aren't kissing scenes? The way he says it, low and almost playful, sends heat creeping up my neck. Now that I have to read. You'll have to finish this one first. He taps the cover in my hands. It's about. Let me guess. Time travel? It's about love. His voice softens. About how time shapes us, changes us, but some connections transcend all of that. It's about finding someone who knows all your different versions and loves them all. Oh. Oh. I swallow hard. That's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Something more technical, less. I wave my free hand vaguely. Romantic? Real. Our eyes meet, and for a moment, I forget we're standing in the middle of the mystery section, surrounded by fictional deaths and disappearances. Why this book? He's quiet for a moment, considering. Because it's about someone who can't stay in one place, one time, trying to build something permanent. Something real. Runs his fingers through his hair, drawing my attention to his broad shoulders, stretching the fabric of his shirt. I thought you might understand that. The air between us feels thick with possibility. Because I came back home? Because you're brave enough to start over. To figure out what you really want. I'm not brave, I protest. I failed. The city, my plans, none of it worked out. You didn't fail. You changed course. His voice is gentle, but certain. There's a difference. Something about the way he says it makes my throat tight. Is that why you left journalism? To change course? Partly. He shifts, and suddenly I realize how close we're standing. Mostly I left because I was tired of telling other people's stories. I needed to find my own. And have you? Found your story? His gaze drops to my lips for just a moment, so briefly I might have imagined it. I'm starting to think. Maggie. Andrew's voice carries from the front of the store. Customer needs help finding the new James Patterson. I close my eyes briefly, cursing my brother's timing. Coming. When I look back at Ethan, his walls are up again, but not as high as before. Read the book, he says softly. Tell me what you think about love that transcends time. Only if you promise to tell me if your novel has a happy ending. A ghost of a smile touches his lips. Still writing that part. I clutch the time traveler's wife closer, like a shield against the intensity in his eyes. Well, as a romance expert, I feel obligated to tell you that the best endings are happy ones. Even if they're complicated? Especially then. I back away slowly, not quite ready to break our connection. The complicated ones are always worth the wait. As I help Mrs. Harrison find the large print edition of her James Patterson novel, I think about different versions of ourselves. The Maggie who stayed in the city. The Ethan who kept writing other people's stories. And this version of us, here and now, trading books and possibilities between the shelves.
Chapter 4. Ethan. The evening crowd at Novel Sips has dwindled to a handful of regulars. Through the windows, The setting sun paints the sky in shades of pink and gold, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. I've been staring at the same paragraph for 20 minutes, second-guessing every word, when a steaming cup appears beside my notebook. "You look like you could use this." Maggie slides into the chair across from me, her own cup cradled in her hands. She's let her hair down, dark curls tumbling past her shoulders, and there's a smudge of flour on her cheek from the afternoon's baking. Andrew's doing inventory, so I'm officially on break. "Want to tell me what's got you looking so serious?" I close my notebook instinctively, then force myself to reopen it. "It's not ready. It's rough." "Good thing I like rough drafts." She props her chin on her hand. They're like seeing behind the curtain of someone's imagination. All the messy, beautiful parts before everything gets polished up. Something about the way she says it, like she genuinely wants to see the mess inside my head, makes me brave. Or reckless. Promise not to laugh? At your time-traveling romance? Never. Her eyes sparkle. Well, unless it's funny. Then I reserve the right to appreciate your wit. I flip to the scene I've been wrestling with. It's the moment when James, my protagonist, realizes changing the past might mean losing Sarah in the present. "The butterfly effect," she says, and my surprise must show because she grins. "What?" "I've been doing my homework. Now read." Taking a deep breath, I begin. The quantum equations were elegant, perfect in their cruel simplicity. Every change rippled forward, rewriting reality in ways he couldn't predict. He thought of Sarah's laugh, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners, how she always seemed to see right through his careful facades. In trying to fix his past mistakes, he might erase the very thing that made his present worth living. I stop, heat creeping up my neck. It's still rough, obviously. I need to. Don't you dare change a word. Maggie leans forward, close enough that I catch the scent of coffee and vanilla. That's beautiful, Ethan. It's exactly how falling in love feels, being terrified that changing anything might break the spell. Her words hit too close to home. You sound like you're speaking from experience. Maybe I am. She meets my eyes, and something electric passes between us. Or maybe you're that good at making me feel things with your words. I used to be better with words, I admit. Back when I was reporting. Everything was clearer then. Facts, quotes, deadlines. This is scarier, harder. I run a hand through my hair. When you're telling your own story, there's nowhere to hide. Why would you want to hide? She reaches across the table, her fingers brushing mine where they rest on the notebook. The best stories are the ones that feel real. Raw. Like the writer opened up their heart and let everything spill onto the page. Her touch sends warmth spreading through my chest. Is that what you look for? In the books you read? It's what I look for everywhere. Her voice drops lower, intimate. People who aren't afraid to be real. To take chances. I'm suddenly aware of how close we are, how easy it would be to lean forward, to close the distance between us. Her eyes drop to my lips, and I feel myself swaying toward her, drawn by some force stronger than gravity. Maggie? Andrew's voice carries from the back room. Can you help me with these boxes? She closes her eyes, a soft curse escaping her lips. When she opens them again, there's something like regret mixed with determination in her gaze. To be continued? Yeah. My voice comes out rougher than intended. To be continued. She stands, but her hand lingers on mine for a moment longer. For what it's worth. I think you're braver than you give yourself credit for. Opening yourself up like this, letting people see the real you. That takes courage. I'm not sure it's courage so much as. I trail off, watching her gather our empty cups. What? Having the right inspiration. A slow smile spreads across her face, lighting up her eyes in a way that makes my heart stutter. Keep writing like that, Mr. Ward, and you might make a sci-fi reader out of me yet. She disappears into the back room, leaving me with the ghost of her touch on my skin and the certainty that I'm falling for my best friend's sister in a way that can't be undone with any amount of time travel. The worst part? I'm not sure I want to undo it at all. I'm packing up my things when Andrew appears beside my table, his expression grim. We need to talk. The evening sun has faded to twilight, casting long shadows through the windows. The last customers are filing out, leaving only the soft hum of the espresso machine as Maggie closes down the cafe side. Look, Andrew says, his voice low but intense. I thought I made myself clear before. Andrew. No, let me finish. He removes his glasses, polishing them with sharp, agitated movements. I've watched you two all week. The private conversations, the shared looks. I saw you almost kiss her earlier. Heat rises to my face. That's not. She's my sister, Ethan. My little sister who just moved back home after having her dreams crushed in the city. And now you're here, filling her head with stories and possibilities when you can barely figure out your own life. Each word hits like a physical blow. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? He replaces his glasses, fixing me with a hard stare. Tell me, how's the novel coming? Any nibbles from publishers? Or are you still finding your voice while burning through your savings? I didn't come here to. To what? To complicate my sister's life? Because that's exactly what you're doing. He braces his hands on the table, leaning forward. She deserves someone stable. Someone who can offer her more than coffee shop conversations and half-written manuscripts. The worst part is, his words ring true. Every rejection letter, every blank page, every moment of wondering if I'm chasing an impossible dream, they all surge forward, threatening to drown me. That's enough. We both turn to find Maggie standing there, her eyes blazing. How long has she been listening? Maggie, Andrew starts, you don't understand? No, you don't understand. She moves to stand between us, and despite being shorter than both of us, she somehow fills the space. I'm not some fragile thing you need to protect. I'm a grown woman who can make her own choices about who to spend time with. I'm just trying to. To what? Save me from the big bad writer? Her laugh is sharp. Newsflash, Andrew. I don't need saving. And I definitely don't need you telling me, or Ethan, what we deserve. He doesn't have a real job, Maggie. No stability, no. He has courage. She cuts him off, her voice fierce. He had the guts to walk away from a career that was killing his soul to pursue something that matters to him. That takes more strength than playing it safe ever will. My chest tightens at her words, at the absolute conviction in her voice. And what happens when his dream doesn't work out? Andrew demands. When he has to face reality like you did? Then he faces it. She reaches back, finding my hand without looking. Her fingers lace through mine, warm and steady. But he won't have to face it alone. The simple touch grounds me, even as Andrew's words echo in my head. She squeezes my hand, as if sensing my inner turmoil. I love you, she tells Andrew, her voice softening slightly. But you need to back off. I'm not asking your permission to care about someone. I'm telling you how it is. Andrew looks between us, his expression a mix of frustration and resignation. Finally, he sighs. I hope you know what you're doing. I do. She doesn't let go of my hand. The question is, do you trust me enough to let me figure things out for myself? He doesn't answer, just shakes his head and walks away. The bell above the door chimes as he steps outside to clear his head like he always does when he's upset. Maggie turns to face me, her eyes searching mine. Hey. You okay? I should say yes. Should thank her for defending me. Should be stronger than this. Instead, I hear myself ask, what if he's right? About what? About me. About this being selfish and impractical, Anne. She cuts me off by stepping closer, reaching up to touch my cheek. The man I've gotten to know? He's anything but selfish. He's thoughtful and passionate and brave. Her thumb brushes my skin. And he's writing a beautiful story about love transcending time because that's what he believes in. How is that impractical? I lean into her touch, fighting the urge to pull her closer. Your brother. We'll get over it. She smiles, soft and sure. Some things are worth the risk, don't you think? Looking into her eyes, feeling the warmth of her hand against my cheek, I think about my protagonist and all his fears about changing the past. About how sometimes the scariest chances are the ones most worth taking. I'm starting to believe they are.
Chapter 5. Maggie. A little to the left, I direct, watching Ethan adjust the display shelf. No, my left. Your other left. You know, he says, carefully shifting the stack of books, when you asked for my help, I thought you meant with book recommendations, not manual labor. Consider it research for your novel. What if your time traveler needs to rearrange furniture in the past? I hand him another stack of carefully curated sci-fi romances. Besides, you're tall. I'm maximizing our resources. The last rays of the setting sun streams through the windows, catching the dark waves of his hair and the way his face softens when he thinks I'm not looking. I'd asked him to help with our new display for the bookstore section after the shop closed. Not that I need it, but I'm enjoying the company. And it gives us a chance to talk before my brother shows up. What do you think? I step back, tilting my head to examine our work. Too much? The display is a meeting of worlds, literally. We've arranged the books in a spiral pattern, starting with pure romance on one end and hardcore sci-fi on the other, with genre-blending titles meeting in the middle. I've added fairy lights that twinkle like stars, and Ethan contributed some surprisingly artistic sketches of galaxies and hearts intertwining. It's meant to catch customers' eyes and showcase how beautiful these genres can be when they come together. Though I might have ulterior motives for choosing this particular theme. He pauses, studying our creation. Actually quite beautiful. The way the genres flow into each other, like time streams converging? I bump his shoulder with mine. I've been paying attention to your scientific metaphors, you know. His laugh is soft and warm. I was going to say like poetry, but yours is better. Ethan Ward, secret romantic. Who would have thought? I reach up to adjust a book that's slightly out of alignment, and he steadies me with a hand at my waist. The touch sends sparks through my whole body. I think, he says quietly, not moving his hand, you might be a bad influence on me. Me? I turn to face him, hyper-aware of how close we're standing. I'm not the one writing swoony scenes about love transcending space and time. No, you're just the one who makes me want to write them. Oh. My heart does a complicated little dance in my chest. Before I can lose my nerve, I blurt out, have dinner with me. His hand drops from my waist. What? Dinner. At the copper kettle. I force myself to meet his eyes. Tonight, maybe? To celebrate finishing the display? Something flickers across his face. Maggie, unless you don't want to? My confidence wavers at his hesitation. No, I do. I really do. His voice is rough with emotion. What about your brother? Andrew is not invited to dinner. I take his hand, threading our fingers together. This isn't about him. This is about you and me and whether you want to have dinner with me at a diner that makes the best apple pie in 3 counties and where the coffee's always fresh even at night. He looks down at our joined hands. You've thought about this? Maybe a little. Or a lot. Every day for weeks. So? The silence stretches between us, full of possibility and hesitation. Finally, he squeezes my hand. What time? 7? My heart leaps. I know the owner. I can get us that corner table by the window. The one with the vintage reading lamp? You've noticed it too? His smile is soft and sure. I notice everything about places you love. And just like that, my knees go weak. It's ridiculous how he can do that, turn a simple observation into something that makes my heart stutter. 7 it is, I manage. And Ethan? Wear that blue sweater. The one that matches your eyes when you're really excited about a plot point. A blush creeps up his neck. You notice things too, huh? Everything, I admit. I notice everything about you. The look he gives me then, tender and terrified and hopeful all at once, makes me think this thing between us could be our own kind of time-traveling miracle. A convergence of two people in exactly the right place at exactly the right moment, creating something new and wonderful and entirely unexpected. Now I just have to make it to 7 o'clock without spontaneously combusting from anticipation. The display really does look perfect, he says, still holding my hand. Yeah, I agree, but I'm not looking at the books anymore. Perfect. The walk home from the copper kettle feels like something out of a dream. Crickets chirp in the warm evening air, and the streetlights cast pools of gold on the sidewalk. Ethan's hand brushes mine as we walk, sending little sparks up my arm until I finally gather my courage and lace our fingers together. We talk about everything and nothing, books we loved as kids, his latest chapter, my secret dream of maybe writing something of my own someday. His thumb traces circles on my palm, and I wonder if he can feel my pulse racing. Too soon, we're at my front door. I turn to face him, and the porch light catches his eyes, turning them the color of twilight. I had a really good time, I say, meaning so much more than just dinner. Me too. His voice is soft, intimate in the quiet night. He steps closer, still holding my hand. Maggie, And then he's kissing me, and everything else fades away. His lips are soft against mine, tasting of coffee and apple pie. One hand cups my cheek while the other slides around my waist, pulling me closer. I sink into him, breathing in the clean scent of his skin and the slight roughness of his evening stubble against my palm. The kiss deepens, tender and unhurried, like we have all the time in the world. When we finally part, I'm dizzy with it. Wow. Yeah. His forehead rests against mine, and I can feel his heart racing to match my own. Want to do this again sometime? The kiss or the dinner? His smile is playful, happy in a way I've never seen before. Both. Definitely both. He kisses me once more, quick and sweet, before stepping back. Good night, Maggie Carter. Good night, Ethan. I watch him walk away, touching my fingers to my lips where I can still feel his kiss. When I finally turn to unlock the door, I'm floating on air. Until I step inside and find Andrew sitting in the dark living room. Really, Maggie? He switches on the lamp. A date? After everything I said? Just like that, my happy bubble bursts. You were waiting up for me? What am I, 16? I'm trying to protect you. From what? A good man who treats me like I matter? From someone who's going to disappoint you. He stands, running a hand through his hair in frustration. He quit his job, Maggie. Threw away a solid career to write science fiction, of all things. What happens when the money runs out? When he has to face reality? Then we'll face it together. My voice rises despite my efforts to stay calm. But you know what? At least he's brave enough to try. To chase something real instead of playing it safe. Playing it safe? Andrew's laugh is bitter. You mean like providing steady jobs? Creating stability? Some of us have to be responsible, Maggie. And some of us have to actually live. I square my shoulders. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to back off and let me make my own choices, or I'm moving out and finding another job. You'd quit over him? Someone you barely know? No. I'd quit because my brother doesn't trust me to make my own decisions. My voice cracks. Because you look at me and still see the scared girl who came home from the city, not the woman who's finally figuring out what she wants. Maggie. I love you, Andrew. But this isn't your choice to make. I head for the stairs, then pause. And for the record? I know Ethan better than you think. I know he stays up late writing because the words come easier at night. I know he takes his coffee black but secretly loves the caramel lattes I make him. I know he's terrified of failing but writes anyway because the stories inside him need to be told. I meet Andrew's eyes. Do you know any of that? Or have you been too busy judging him to actually see who he's become? What happened to my big brother with even bigger dreams? The one who risked it all for an empty building on Main and the dream that became novel sips? I don't wait for his answer. I climb the stairs to my room. My lips still tingle from Ethan's kiss, and not even Andrew's disapproval can dim the warmth in my chest. Because for the first time since coming home, I know exactly what I want. Who I want. And I'm not letting anyone talk me out of it.
Chapter 6. Ethan. The words on my laptop screen blur together as I stare at them, the cursor blinking like a judgment. I've been sitting in my usual corner at Novel Sips for 2 hours and written exactly 3 sentences. All of them terrible. Outside, spring sunlight dances across the sidewalk, and the cherry trees along Main Street are heavy with pink blossoms. It's the kind of day that should inspire prose. Instead, I'm drowning in doubt. She deserves someone stable. Someone who can offer her more than coffee shop conversations and half-written manuscripts. Andrew's words echo in my head, drowning out everything else. The worst part is, he's not entirely wrong. What am I offering Maggie, really? A stack of rejection letters and a bank account that gets smaller every month? I check my email compulsively, hoping for word from any of the literary agents I've queried. The only new message is from my former editor, asking if I've come to my senses yet about returning to journalism. I close my eyes, but that only makes it worse. Because then I remember last night, the softness of her lips, the way she melted into me, how perfectly she fit in my arms. The memory of her fingers threading through my hair sends a physical ache through my chest. I can still taste apple pie and coffee on my lips, can still feel the way her breath caught when I pulled her closer. My protagonist, James, would know what to do. He's braver than I am, willing to tear apart time itself for love. Me? I'm sitting here paralyzed by fear, watching my cursor blink and listening to the gentle whir of the espresso machine like it might somehow give me answers. You look like you're thinking too hard. My eyes snap open to find Maggie standing there, holding a fresh cup of coffee. She's wearing a t-shirt with an actual constellation pattern, her curls pulled back in a messy bun, and my heart does a complicated flip in my chest. There's a dusting of cinnamon on her apron, and all I can think about is how much I want to pull her close and kiss her again. Wrestling with a difficult scene. The light tastes bitter, like coffee gone cold. Through the windows, I watch another pink blossom drift to the ground. How fitting. Want to talk about it? She sets the coffee down and moves to take her usual seat across from me. The afternoon light catches her eyes, turning them the color of honey, and I have to physically stop myself from reaching for her hand. Actually, I should probably focus. I keep my voice carefully neutral, even as something inside me cracks at the hurt that flashes across her face. Deadline, you know? My agent would laugh at that, if I had one. 3 months of queries, and all I have to show for it are form rejections and silence. Some deadline. Right. She straightens, and I hate how formal her posture suddenly becomes. The easy warmth between us freezes over. Well, if you need anything. I need you, I think. I need you, and that terrifies me because I have nothing solid to offer you. Because everyone in my life who believed in me, my editor, my colleagues, even your brother, they all think I'm making a huge mistake. Thanks, is what I say instead, forcing a smile that doesn't reach my eyes. My hands itch to reach for her, to pull her close and explain everything. Instead, I clench them around my coffee cup. She lingers for a moment, like she's waiting for something more. When I don't give it, she nods once and turns away. I watch her walk back to the counter, the usual spring missing from her step. The distance between us feels vast, impossible, a temporal paradox of my own making. My cursor keeps blinking. 3 months ago, I quit my job to write about time travel and second chances. Now here I am, probably making the biggest mistake of my life, and I can't even write about it. The irony would be funny if it didn't hurt so much. The afternoon crowd starts to filter in. I watch as Maggie greets each customer by name, remembering their usual orders, asking about their days. Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes, but no one else seems to notice. No one else knows it's my fault. I open my notebook, flipping to where I've written about my protagonist's greatest fear, that changing the past might erase the best parts of his present. The irony isn't lost on me. Here I am, trying to build a future as a writer, and I might lose the best thing in my present because I'm too scared to believe I deserve it. Through the shelves, I catch glimpses of Maggie as she works. The way she smiles at customers. How she absently touches her lips when she thinks no one's looking, like she's remembering our kiss too. The gentle way she straightens books on the shelves, her fingers trailing over spines like she's reading stories through touch alone. My coffee grows cold as I war with myself. The practical part of me, the part that sounds suspiciously like Andrew, says to end this now, before we're both in too deep. Before I inevitably disappoint her like I've disappointed everyone else who believed in me. Before she realizes that loving a writer means loving someone who lives half in reality and half in dreams. But then she laughs at something a customer says, and the sound cuts through all my doubts like sunlight through clouds. I think about how she believes in my writing, how she sees past my careful walls, how she makes me want to be brave enough to deserve her faith in me. How she reads my pages with such care, finding meaning in words I thought were just taking up space. She deserves someone stable, Andrew's voice echoes again. She deserves someone who sees her, my heart argues back. Someone who understands that she's not looking for safety. She's looking for someone who believes in possibilities the way she does. I stare at my screen, at the scene I've been trying to write where my protagonist has to choose between playing it safe and taking a leap of faith. The words still won't come. The blinking cursor mocks me, counting out the seconds between what I want and what I fear. When I look up again, catching Maggie's eye across the shop, I realize why. I've been writing about someone afraid to change the past, when what I really need to write about is someone brave enough to fight for their future. Someone who understands that the scariest chances are often the ones most worth taking. The cabin's porch creaks beneath my feet as I pace, fountain pen tapping against my weathered notebook. Through the trees, I can just make out the lights of downtown Juniper Falls twinkling in the gathering dusk. Somewhere down there, Novel Sips is closing for the night. Somewhere down there, Maggie is probably wondering why I shut her out today. My notebook sits open on the old wooden deck chair, the pages ruffling in the spring breeze. I've been writing furiously since I got home, pouring all my fears into my protagonist's story. Now the ink-stained pages are full of his anguish, about changing the past, about risking love, about the terror of reaching for something you're not sure you deserve. Well, this is quite the brooding scene. I turn to find Hazel Elliott climbing the porch steps, a covered dish in her hands. Her signature scarf today is a soft purple that matches the twilight sky. I wasn't brooding, I protest weakly. I was writing. Darling, I taught English for 30 years. She sets the dish on the small table. I know brooding when I see it. She settles into one of the rocking chairs. Sit. Have some cobbler. Tell me why you're up here writing about heartache instead of down there making Maggie smile. I don't, how did you? Small town. She waves a hand dismissively. Besides, I saw you practically run out of novel sips earlier. Very dramatic, by the way. Good writing fodder, I suppose, but rather hard on the heart. I sink into the chair across from her, running a hand through my hair. It's complicated. Things worth having usually are. She pushes the cobbler toward me. Now, is this about Andrew's disapproval or your own? The question hits too close to home. Both? Neither? I flip through my notebook, finding the scene I've sketched out, waiting to be typed up on the computer charging inside. Here, my protagonist is trying to decide if he should give up his research into time travel. He knows it could change everything, erase the good things in his present. Hmm. Hazel's eyes twinkle. Sounds an awful lot like someone else I know. Except he's not worried about time travel so much as matters of the heart. What if Andrew's right? The words burst out before I can stop them. What if I'm being selfish, pursuing this writing dream? I have some savings, but it won't last forever. And Maggie deserves. Stop right there. Hazel's voice is gentle but firm. Let me tell you something about Maggie Carter. That girl has never wanted what other people think she deserves. She wants what she chooses. And for some reason I can't quite fathom at the moment, she's chosen you. But, no buts. You know what I see when I look at you, Ethan? I see someone who's finally writing the stories he was meant to tell. Your words have life now, heart. They didn't have that when you were reporting facts and figures. I stare at my hands. Heart doesn't pay the bills. No? Tell that to Nicholas Sparks or Brandon Sanderson. She chuckles at my expression. The point is, you're not just writing stories about time travel. You're writing about love and courage and taking chances. Maybe it's time to practice what you write. I'm afraid, I admit quietly, watching the first stars appear above the trees. Not just of failing, but of dragging her down with me. Oh, sweetheart. Hazel reaches over to pat my hand. Don't you see? Maggie's not some delicate flower who needs protecting from life's uncertainties. She's had her own failures, her own doubts. What she needs is someone who understands that about her. Someone who sees her strength, not just her scars. Her words sink into me slowly, like rain into parched earth. I do see her. Sometimes I think I see her too clearly. It terrifies me how much I want to be worthy of her. Then be worthy. Not by playing it safe or living up to Andrew's expectations, but by being brave enough to love her exactly as you are. Hazel stands, adjusting her scarf. You know, your protagonist isn't just researching time travel. He's learning that some things, some people, are worth any risk. She moves to the steps, then pauses. The cobbler's peach, by the way. Maggie mentioned it was your favorite. After she leaves, I pick up my notebook again. In the growing darkness, I read the words I've written, all my fears and doubts poured onto the page. But there, between the lines about temporal paradoxes and changing the past, I find something else. Hope. Possibility. The kind of love that makes you brave. I think about Maggie's smile when she reads my pages, how she sees the heart of my story even when I'm lost in the details. How she makes me believe, just for a moment, that I could be the kind of person who deserves a happy ending. My protagonist is afraid of changing the past because it might erase his present. But maybe the real story isn't about what we might lose by taking chances. Maybe it's about what we definitely lose by being too afraid to take them at all. I reach for a fresh page, my pen moving with new purpose. It's time to write a different kind of story. One about a man who stops running from happiness, who learns that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply stay where love finds us.
Chapter 7. Maggie. There are some things you learn when you work in a coffee shop long enough. Things like the exact temperature for perfect foam, which customers need their coffee before they can speak, or how to read the subtle shifts in someone's mood through their coffee order. So when Ethan switches from his usual black coffee to an Americano with an extra shot, I know something's wrong before the writing group even begins. The late afternoon sun slants through the windows as Gloria opens the meeting, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. My hands stay busy wiping down tables and restocking supplies, but my attention keeps drifting to the circle of writers near the fireplace. "What about you, Ethan?" Gloria asks. "How's the novel coming along?" I pause in my work, waiting for his response. Usually, this is when his whole face lights up, when he shares some breakthrough about temporal mechanics or character development that makes the whole group lean forward in their chairs. Instead, he just shrugs, his fingers tied around his coffee cup. Still working through some things. The conversation moves on, but I notice how he shrinks into his chair, how his notebook stays closed on his lap, how the fountain pen he carries everywhere stays capped. When Gloria calls for a break, I watch the other writers disperse to refill their drinks or browse the shelves. Ethan stays put, staring into his coffee like it might hold answers to questions I don't even know he's asking. Hey. I approach slowly, like you might a spooked animal. Can I get you a refill? He looks up, and for a moment, I catch a glimpse of something raw in his eyes before his walls snap back into place. I'm good, thanks. Are you? I perch on the arm of the chair next to his. Because you seem. I'm not sure how to describe the distance that's grown between us since that kiss, since that perfect moment on my doorstep that now feels like it happened in another lifetime. Just distracted. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Trying to work out some plot points. Want to talk about it? I've gotten pretty good at following temporal paradoxes. I aim for lightness, hoping to see even a ghost of his usual warm response to our banter. It's fine. He closes his notebook, tucking his pen away. Just writer stuff. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to worry about it. Like I'm just another acquaintance. Like the past few weeks of shared looks and tender moments never happened. Like he hadn't kissed me like I was something precious, something worth holding on to. Okay. I stand, smoothing my apron to hide how my hands want to shake. Well, if you need anything. Thanks, Maggie. Just Maggie. Not Mags like he'd whispered against my lips. Not even Miss Carter like he used to say when he first started coming here, all proper and formal until I teased him out of it. I retreat to the safety of the counter, mechanically going through the motions of making drinks and running the register. But I can't stop watching him, cataloging all the little changes that add up to something being terribly wrong. The way his shoulders curve inward, like he's trying to make himself smaller. How he barely contributes to the group's discussion, when usually his insights make everyone scribble notes furiously. The distance in his eyes when he looks my way, like he's seeing right through me to something far beyond. Andrew catches me watching and gives me that big brother look that says I told you so. I turn away, focusing on the espresso machine with more attention than it needs. I'm not giving my brother the satisfaction of being right. Besides, everything's fine. Ethan's just wrestling with his novel. Writers do that, right? Get lost in their heads, work through their blocks, emerge on the other side with something beautiful. That's all this is. It has to be. Because the alternative, that he's pulling away, that he regrets that kiss, that Andrew was right about him not being ready for something real, that alternative hurts too much to consider. So I keep making coffee, keep smiling at customers, keep pretending my heart doesn't crack a little more each time Ethan looks through me instead of at me. And I tell myself that some stories just take longer to find their way to a happy ending. Even if, right now, it feels like our story might be ending before it really had a chance to begin. When the writing group wraps up, Ethan packs his things quickly, barely glancing my way as he heads for the door. The bell chimes his departure, and I find myself counting his steps through the window until he disappears from view. More coffee, Mrs. O'Connor? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. Because that's what you do in a coffee shop. You keep going. You serve the drinks and straighten the shelves and pretend your heart isn't walking away in someone else's pocket. Even if you're not entirely sure you'll get it back. The evening quiet at Novel Sips always feels different from the morning silence. More final somehow. I'm wiping down the last table when I spot an envelope that's slipped halfway under one of the armchairs. Probably another customer's lost mail. It happens more often than you'd think. The address is smudged, the envelope torn open. The paper inside is heavy, not the cheap printer paper I use. When I pull it out, I recognize the letterhead. My heart stutters as I read. Dear Mr. Ward, thank you for submitting time streams to Riverside Publishing. While your concept is intriguing, we regret that this manuscript, like your previous submissions, doesn't quite meet our current needs. The words blur as I keep reading. Phrases like not commercially viable and wish you luck placing it elsewhere jump out at me. This isn't just a rejection. It's a door closing. What's that? I turned to find Andrew watching me, his arms full of empty coffee cups. Nothing. I moved to tuck the letter away, but he's already seen the publisher's logo. Another rejection? His sigh holds a weight of judgment. Maggie, this is exactly what I was talking about. He's chasing a pipe dream, and now he's dragging you into it. Something inside me snaps. Maybe it's the condescension in his voice, or maybe it's just the last straw after weeks of his hovering disapproval. You know what? I quit. What? You heard me. I untie my apron, letting it fall onto the counter. I'm done with you deciding what's best for everyone. Done with your judgment and your control and your constant need to protect me from living my own life. Maggie, be reasonable. Reasonable? I laugh, and it sounds a little wild even to my ears. Was it reasonable when you drove away every guy I dated in high school? When you convinced me art school was impractical? When you made me feel like coming home was giving up? I grabbed my bag from behind the counter. I love you, Andrew, but I can't work for someone who doesn't trust me to make my own choices. I'm out the door before he can respond, the bell's cheerful chime a stark contrast to the storm in my chest. The spring evening is cool against my flushed cheeks as I head toward Ethan's cabin. He needs to know that one rejection, or 3, doesn't mean he should give up. That I believe in his words, his story, his voice. Maggie? I nearly collide with Hazel, who's walking her Scottish Terrier along Main Street. Oh good, I was hoping to catch you, she says, but something in her expression makes my steps falter. I just got off the phone with Ethan. He's giving notice on the cabin. The world tilts sideways. What? Said something about returning to his old job. She touches my arm gently. I thought you should know. I'm running before she finishes speaking, taking the path to his cabin at a pace that makes my lungs burn. The lights are on, spilling warm rectangles onto the porch. Through the window, I can see him moving around, pulling books from shelves. I don't knock. Were you going to tell me? He spins around, a stack of books in his arms. More volumes lie scattered around half-packed boxes. Maggie. Or were you just going to disappear? Leave a note maybe? Thanks for the coffee and kisses, sorry it didn't work out? It's not like that. He sets the books down carefully, too carefully. It's time for me to face reality. Reality? I pull out the rejection letter. You mean this? He goes still. Where did you? Found it at the shop. Right before I quit my job defending you to Andrew, by the way. You quit? His face drains of color. Maggie, no. That's exactly why I have to leave. I can't let you throw away your stability for. For what? For someone who believes in something? For someone brave enough to chase their dreams? Dreams don't pay bills. His laugh is bitter. 3 rejected manuscripts. Maybe it's time to admit Andrew was right. So you're running away? Back to a job you hated, a life that was suffocating you? I'm being practical. No. I step closer, into his space. You're being a coward. And you're doing exactly what Andrew does, deciding what's best for me without asking what I want. He won't meet my eyes. What do you want, Maggie? You. The word echoes in the cabin's quiet. I want you, Ethan. The real you, not some safe, practical version that fits other people's expectations. I want the man who writes about love transcending time because he believes in possibilities. The one who sees magic in ordinary moments and puts it into words that make other people believe too. That man can't give you the life you deserve. Then let me decide what I deserve. My voice cracks. Let me choose my own path, just like you did when you left journalism. Or was all that talk about being brave enough to chase your dreams just words on a page? He finally looks at me, and the pain in his eyes steals my breath. I can't be the reason you give up everything. I'm not giving up anything. I'm choosing something. Someone. I touch his cheek, feeling the slight tremor in his jaw. But I guess I'm choosing alone. I back away slowly, waiting, hoping for him to stop me. To say something. To fight for this thing between us that feels too precious to let go. He doesn't.
Chapter 8. Ethan. The sun hasn't quite risen when I reach Novel Sips, my notebook clutched like a lifeline. My eyes burn from a sleepless night of writing, but my mind is clearer than it's been in weeks. Maybe that's what happens when you finally stop running from the truth. Andrew is already inside, setting up for the morning rush. He looks up when I knock, hesitates, then comes to unlock the door. We're not open yet. I know. My voice is hoarse from too much coffee and not enough sleep. But I need to talk to you. Please. He studies me for a long moment, then steps aside. The shop feels different in this pre-dawn quiet, full of possibility, like a blank page waiting for words. You look terrible, he says, but there's less edge to it than usual. Didn't sleep. I set my notebook on the counter. Been writing. Another story about time travel? No. Well, yes, but I take a deep breath. It's about courage. About choosing happiness even when it's terrifying. About not letting fear of failure stop you from reaching for something real. Ethan. Let me finish. Please. I wait for his nod. You were right about some things. I did leave a stable career. I am taking a risk. But you were wrong about why. I open my notebook to the pages I wrote last night, the ink still fresh. I'm not running away from responsibility. I'm running towards something I believe in. And I've figured out how to do it without compromising either my dreams or my ability to build a life. He leans against the counter, arms crossed. I'm listening. I've lined up some freelance journalism work. Technical writing, feature articles, the kind of stuff I'm good at. It's enough to pay the bills while I keep working on my novel. My hands shake slightly as I turn another page. I'm not asking Maggie to support me or take risks for me. I'm asking her to believe in me while I find my balance. The way she already does. Andrew's expression softens almost imperceptibly. And the novel? Might fail. Might succeed. But I have to try. I meet his eyes. You understand that, don't you? You took a risk opening this place. Created something special because you believed in it. He's quiet for a long moment, looking around at the shop he built from nothing. Read it to me. What? Whatever kept you up all night writing. Read it to me. I swallow hard, finding the right page. It's, the scene where my protagonist realizes what matters most. Wait. Andrew holds up a hand and pulls out his phone. After a moment, he says, Maggie? I need you to come to the shop. Yes, I know you quit. Please. It's important. My heart stutters. Andrew. If these words are meant for my sister, she should hear them. He starts making coffee. Gloria and the writing group will be here soon for their morning session. Might as well have an audience. The next 30 minutes pass in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. Gloria arrives first, then Ted, then others from the group. Hazel appears as if by magic, her eyes twinkling like she knew this was coming. Andrew keeps making coffee, the familiar scent filling the air. And then Maggie walks in. She stops short when she sees everyone, her eyes finding mine. She's wearing the same clothes as last night, her hair a mess of curls, like maybe she didn't sleep either. What is this? A revelation, Hazel says, patting the chair next to her. Come sit, dear. My hands shake as I open my notebook. I've been trying to write this scene for weeks. About my protagonist's biggest choice. But I couldn't get it right because I was afraid to face what it really meant. I look at Maggie. What you really mean? The shop falls quiet except for the gentle hum of the espresso machine. Even Andrew stops wiping cups to listen. Time isn't linear, I read. It doesn't flow like a river from past to future. It spirals, loops back on itself, creates patterns we can only see when we're brave enough to look. I thought I was searching for a way to fix the past, to undo mistakes and start over. But standing here, watching her smile at strangers and find the heart in my words, I realize I've been looking in the wrong direction. Maggie's hands press against her heart as I continue. The future isn't something that happens to us. It's something we choose, moment by moment, decision by decision. And I choose her. I choose the way she believes in possibility, the way she sees magic in ordinary moments, the way she makes me brave enough to tell the truth, not just on paper, but in my heart. My voice shakes, but I keep going. Some things are worth any risk. Some people make you want to be better, braver, more than you ever thought you could be. And if time is a circle, then every moment is a chance to choose love over fear, courage over safety, truth over doubt. I look up, finding Maggie's tear-filled eyes. I can't promise success. Can't guarantee that every dream will come true. But I can promise to try. To believe. To stay, even when it's scary. Because a life without her isn't a future I want to write. The silence when I finish feels electric. Maggie stands slowly, taking a step toward me. You wrote that last night? I nod. After you left. When I finally understood what I was really afraid of. And what was that? Not failure. My voice cracks. Being happy. Letting myself have something real, something that mattered more than my fear. She takes another step. And now? Now I choose you. If you'll still have me. Andrew clears his throat. We both turn, startled. I'd almost forgotten we had an audience. The shop needs a partner, he says quietly. Someone with vision. Heart. He looks at Maggie. Someone who sees the magic in ordinary moments. Maggie's eyes go wide. Andrew. You were right. Both of you. He polishes his glasses. About courage. About choosing happiness. He puts his glasses back on. What do you say, sis? Partners? She laughs through her tears. Only if you promise to stop trying to run my life. Deal. He turns to me. And you. You heard her, there's not enough time travel in the world to save you. Understood. Maggie closes the distance between us. You're really staying? As long as you'll have me. I touch her cheek. I've got some freelance work lined up, enough to keep me going while I write. It won't be easy, but... She cuts me off with a kiss that makes the whole room erupt in applause and cheers. I barely hear them, too lost in the feel of her in my arms, the taste of joy on her lips, the certainty that this moment, this woman, this love, is worth everything. When we part, she whispers, just so you know, that scene needs to go in the book. I laugh, pressing my forehead to hers. Already added it. Right after the part where he realizes sometimes the best stories aren't about changing the past. Oh? What are they about? I kiss her again, soft and sure. They're about being brave enough to love the present. And all the moments yet to come.
Epilogue. Maggie. 1 year later. You realize this is a little on the nose, right? I adjust the display of Ethan's soon-to-be-released novel in Novel Sip's front window. The cover art shows a coffee cup with galaxies swirling in its steam, and the advance reviews are calling it a deftly woven tale of love, time, and the courage to choose happiness. Says the woman who said yes in the sci-fi section. Ethan wraps his arms around me from behind, and my engagement ring catches the morning light. I turn in his embrace. In my defense, you did hide the ring in a hollowed-out copy of The Time Traveler's Wife. Seemed appropriate. He kisses me softly. Besides, this place is our story. His freelance articles have been doing well. Turns out all those journalism contacts came in handy, and between that and his book advance, he's found his balance. Some days he writes at his corner table, other days he works from home. But he always brings me coffee just the way I like it, and he still reads me every new chapter first. I catch him watching me sometimes, when he thinks I'm busy with customers or inventory, like he can't quite believe we're here. Like he's memorizing every moment for another story. Those are the times I'll bring him a fresh coffee, brush my fingers through his hair, and remind him that some love stories don't need time travel to find their happy ending. The signing event next week is almost full, I tell him, straightening a stack of advance reader copies. Gloria's got the whole writing group coming. And Hazel's bringing cookies, he adds, though she says we're not allowed to know what kind until the day of. Something about maintaining an air of mystery. Speaking of mysteries. I nod toward Andrew, who's teaching a new barista the intricacies of our ancient espresso machine. He's more relaxed these days, now that we've settled into our partnership. Turns out my brother's a lot easier to deal with when he's not trying to manage my personal life. The bell above the door chimes. A woman walks in, holding the hand of a little boy who looks about 4. My brother looks up, and the coffee cup he's holding crashes to the floor. "Hello, Andrew," the woman says. The little boy peers around his mother's legs, curious eyes, taking in the shop. Time seems to stand still in novel sips, the way it does when a new story is about to begin. I squeeze Ethan's hand, and he whispers in my ear, "I think your brother might need his own chapter now." Looking at Andrew's shell-shocked expression, I have to agree. After all, the best love stories often start in coffee shops. Even the ones that take a few years to find their way home. The end. This has been Coffeehouse Confessions, written by Susanne Ash. Copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Production copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you want me to put more of my books on YouTube. Visit my website at www.susanneash.com for more of my books or find me on Amazon.